So I'm going to go over how I would approach this first proof that I assigned to you. So we were given that BC is parallel to DAE, so I'm going to start by marking that on my diagram. Now I know from a couple weeks ago we had a lesson where we saw that if two chords are parallel, then that means that the arcs between them are congruent. So the first thing that I would say is something about how arc BD is congruent to arc CE because they are the arcs between parallel chords. So remember, it's been a while since we've done proofs, so just keep in mind there are multiple ways and orders to complete these proofs, so I'm just presenting one way. And you don't have to have the exact same thing that I've written here, but if you are explaining the same idea, then that's totally fine. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is, from the fact that these arcs are congruent, arc CE is the arc that's intercepted by this little angle over here, which is angle CDE. This angle over here is intercepting arc BD. That's angle BED. So those two angles have to be congruent to each other. I know they're congruent because they're intercepting congruent arcs. So whatever these arc measures are, the inscribed angles will be half of that measure. So these angles have to be congruent. So somewhere I need to say that angle CDE is congruent to angle BED, something about inscribed angles with congruent intercepted arcs. Okay, so going towards trying to prove that these two triangles are congruent, I now have one set of angles that are congruent to each other. I also have reflexive property because both of those triangles are sharing the diameter. The diameter is one side for both of those triangles. So for reflexive property, I would say segment DE is congruent to segment DE, and that's because of reflexive property. Okay, so now I have an angle and a side that are congruent. From here, I'm actually going to use another set of angles. There are a few different ways that you could approach this next set of angles. Let's move to a different color. So it's going to be this angle here, angle DBE, and this angle here, angle ECD. So these angles are both right angles. You may remember from our lesson Tuesday? I don't know, some lesson recently. So these two angles are both right angles. That's one way you could approach this. I know that they're right angles because they are intercepting a semicircle. So both those angles, if you follow their rays out, they both intercept D and E, which is a semicircle. So if you went through and said that these are both right angles and explained why, great. It's actually slightly quicker to just say that they're congruent because they intercept the same arc, DE. So I'm going to say angle DBE is congruent to angle ECD. And I know that because they both intercept arc DE. So now I have two angles that are congruent and one set of sides. Because they're overlapping, it's a little hard to tell, is this AAS or ASA? So let's really focus in on just one of those triangles and what is marked. So I'm going to outline DBE. Okay, so in triangle DBE, we have this shared side here. So that's the side. Then I have angle B of that triangle and angle E of that triangle. Not this one, because that's only part of the angle of triangle DBE. So this little angle that I marked here is part of the other triangle. So now that I've outlined it, I can also redraw it if I want, if that makes it a little easier. So it's this side, this angle, and this angle, so I can tell that that is angle, angle, side. So my final statement, triangle DBE is congruent to triangle ECD because of angle, angle, side. Now again, this is not the only way that you could have gone through this. This is just the way that seemed most straightforward, most obvious to me. It doesn't mean that the way that you did yours is wrong. I am going to be going through your work tonight, maybe tomorrow, sometime soon, and giving you feedback about it and about the other one as well. But I just wanted to show you my solution because I know it's been a while since we did proofs, and we are going to continue with some circle proofs on Monday.